You know, Alex, there's a specific kind of heartbreak that only happens in a machine shop. It's that moment you're drilling into a beautiful piece of stainless steel, feeling like a hero, and suddenly the bit stops biting. It just sits there, screaming, rubbing itself smooth, and you realize you've just turned your workpiece into a sapphire hard piece of industrial candy that no tool on earth will ever touch again.
Well, hello to you too. I take it we're talking about the subtle art of ruining expensive metal today? Because industrial candy sounds like a very poetic way of saying you melted a $20 cobalt bit.
25, actually. And it didn't just melt, it fused. It's a part of the family now. But today, we are diving deep into stainless steel. It's the prom queen of the shop floor. Gorgeous, durable, stays shiny forever. But man, she's got a temper if you don't treat her with respect.
It's the material everyone wants for their outdoor kitchen or that forever coffee table. But then they see the price tag or try to cut it with a wood blade and reality hits. I want to break down why stainless is such a different beast compared to the mild steel or aluminum folks might be used to.
It really starts with the chemistry. People think steel is steel, but stainless is packed with chromium and nickel. That's what stops the rust, but it also makes the metal incredibly work hardened. If you hesitate while cutting it, if you let that tool rub instead of bite, the heat climbs instantly, and the molecular structure of the steel changes right under your nose. It becomes harder than the tool trying to cut it.
So it's basically a metal that fights back. If you're shy with the drill press, you're actually making your own life harder for the next 10 minutes.
Exactly. You have to be assertive. It's like dating. You can't just linger there awkwardly. You've got to commit.
Okay, let's talk about getting through the stuff first. Our notes from South Coast Metal Fabrication mention the big three: laser, plasma, and water jet. Now, most of us don't have a water jet in the garage, unless you've won the lottery recently. So what are we actually doing at home?
In the den, we're looking at it a bit more, shall we say, analog. If you're working with thin sheets, a good set of shears, the big ones that look like they belong in a giant sewing kit, can handle it. But for anything with meat on its bones, you're looking at a plasma cutter, or more likely for the beginner, an angle grinder with a dedicated ultra-thin cutoff wheel.
Wait, dedicated? You can't just use the same wheel you used on that rusty garden gate yesterday?
Don't even joke about that. This is the biggest rookie mistake in the book. If you use a grinding wheel that's touched carbon steel on your nice stainless, you are literally embedding tiny particles of rust-prone iron into your rust-proof project. Fast forward 3 months, and your beautiful stainless handrail has measles. It'll have little brown rust spots everywhere. You need inox-rated wheels, and you keep them in a separate drawer.
It's like keeping a separate cutting board for raw chicken. Cross-contamination is real in the metal world.
It's the silent killer. Even your wire brushes, stainless only. If you use a carbon steel brush to clean a weld, you might as well just paint the thing brown and call it a day.
Let's move to the pretty part. The grades. I keep seeing 304 and 3116. To the uninitiated, those are just numbers. Why should my wallet care about the difference?
Think of 304 as your everyday hero. It's what your kitchen sink is probably made of. It's great, it's tough, it's shiny. But if you live near the ocean, or you're building something that's going to live in a salt air environment, 304 will eventually give up the ghost. That's when you step up to 316. It's got molybdenum in it, which is a fun word to say, and that acts like a chemical shield against salt corrosion.
I'm guessing the price of 316 is enough to make a person's eyes water?
Oh, it'll do more than that. It'll make you reconsider how much you actually like the ocean. You're looking at a significant jump in cost. I usually tell people, unless it's going on a boat or a beachfront balcony, 304 is your best friend.
You mentioned work hardening earlier. Let's get into the shop-level physics of that. If I'm at my drill press and I'm about to put a hole in a 1/4 inch plate, what is the Tiger-approved method to not ruin my afternoon?
Slow and heavy. That's the mantra. If you're used to drilling wood where you let the speed do the work, you have to unlearn everything. With stainless, you turn that RPM way down, slower than you think, and you lean on that handle like you're trying to crush a stubborn walnut. You want to see thick, continuous chips coming out, not fine silver dust. If you see dust, you're just friction cooking your drill bit.
And lubrication? I've seen people use everything from high-end cutting oils to, well, things I probably shouldn't mention on a family podcast.
I've seen some old-timer recipes involving bacon grease that would turn your stomach, but honestly, a high-sulfur cutting oil is the gold standard. It keeps the heat from building up at the very tip of the tool, because once that spot gets red hot, the party's over. The steel wins.
It sounds like metalworking is 10% shaping material and 90% heat management.
You've hit the nail on the head, or rather, you've kept the drill bit from melting.
Let's talk about joining the stuff. Our notes talk about MIG and TIG. For a homeowner looking to get into this, MIG seems more accessible. But every pro photo I see of stainless looks like those beautiful rainbow TIG welds. Is TIG the only way to go if you want it to look good?
It's the Instagram way for sure. TIG gives you that surgical precision. You're holding a torch in one hand, a filler rod in the other, and using a foot pedal, it's like playing the drums while trying to perform microsurgery. But for most shop projects, a MIG welder with a bottle of Trimix gas and some stainless wire will get you 90% of the way there. It won't be as artistic, but it'll be strong enough to hold up a bridge.
But there's a catch, right? I feel a tiger lesson coming on.
The sugar. That's the catch. If you weld stainless and you don't protect the backside of the weld with inert gas, we call it back purging, the oxygen in the air reacts with the molten metal on the inside of the joint. It turns into this nasty, black, crusty mess that looks like burnt cauliflower. It's structurally weak and it'll rust from the inside out.
Burnt cauliflower. Got it. So if I'm welding a pipe, I have to fill the whole pipe with argon gas just to keep it pretty?
If you want it to last, yes, it sounds fussy, and it is. Stainless demand you pay attention to the things you can't see just as much as what you can.
Okay, so we've cut it without contaminating it, drilled it without melting the bit, and welded it without creating cauliflower. Now we're at the finish line. Finishing and passivation. This sounds like a spa treatment for metal.
In a way, it is. Passivation is the most overlooked step in the home shop. When you cut, grind, or weld stainless, you've disturbed that protective chromium oxide layer. To get it back to its stainless state, you usually treat it with a mild acid. Citric acid is actually becoming very popular because it's not as terrifying to handle as nitric acid. It eats away any free iron on the surface and lets that chromium layer heal itself.
So the metal literally heals? That's some sci-fi stuff right there.
It's the closest thing to Wolverine we have in the shop. If you skip it, you might find your stainless project looking remarkably stainful after the first rain.
I see what you did there. But let's be real. Most hobbyists are going to grab an angle grinder and a flap disc and just try to make it shiny.
And there is no shame in that. A 120 grit flap disc, followed by a Scotch-Brite pad, will give you a beautiful brushed finish that hides fingerprints. If you try to go for a mirror finish, God bless you. You'll be in that shop for 3 days with various buffing compounds, and by the end, you'll be able to see your own exhausted face in the metal. But you'll also see every single tiny scratch you missed at step 3.
Before we wrap up, let's talk shop setup. If someone's listening to this in their car and thinking, I want to start a stainless project this weekend, what's the one tool they probably don't have that they absolutely need?
A good set of transfer punches and a real center punch. In wood, you can sort of aim the drill. In stainless, if you don't have a deep physical dimple for that bit to sit in, it will skitter across that surface like a hockey puck on fresh ice, scratching your beautiful finish all the way.
I've seen those scratches. They look like a silver cat went crazy on the workpiece.
Precisely. And my second piece of advice, buy a deburring tool. Stainless edges after cutting are sharper than a surgeon's scalpel. I've left more DNA on stainless projects than I care to admit because I thought I could just wipe the dust off with my thumb.
I knew there was a paid-in-blood story in here somewhere.
It's the tuition of the trade, Alex. But the takeaway for everyone listening is this. Stainless steel isn't harder to work with. It's just less forgiving of laziness. If you take your time, keep your tools sharp, and respect the heat, you end up with something that will literally outlast your house. There's a profound satisfaction in making something that's essentially permanent.
Permanent, shiny, and salt-resistant, just like my personality.
We'll see about the salt-resistant part after you try to polish your first manifold.
Fair point. Thanks for the breakdown, Tiger. Next time, can we talk about something that doesn't fight back, like balsa wood?
Not a chance. We're doing cast iron next week. Bring your heavy boots.